Clinton campaign is laser focused on a group of voters who have been among the least enthusiastic about her candidacy, millennials. They brought out the heavy hitters this week, Michelle Obama and Bernie Sanders, to talk college affordability, to energize voters under 30 to register to vote, and to try to woo them away from third-party candidates. In our NBC News SurveyMonkey online poll out this week, Libertarian Gary Johnson and Green Party candidate Jill Stein have a combined 23% among voters under the age of 30. Clinton is sitting at 49%, Trump at 26%. But wow, look at that. Nearly 1 in 4 voters under 30 looking third party. So you know what that means. It's one of those years where we could see a third party, perhaps spoiler, thanks in part to young voters. Joining me now is half of the Libertarian ticket, the vice presidential nominee and former governor of Massachusetts, Bill Weld. Governor Weld, good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Chuck. Always a pleasure.
Let me ask about the state of your ticket here and your ticket mate. Do you believe you can withstand more of what even Governor Gary Johnson called Aleppo moments?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think the fact that the candidate may not specialize in pop quizzes on TV, that doesn't go to the fundamentals. I mean, one of the reasons Gary Johnson's so frustrated with himself for the Aleppo incident is that he actually has been talking for a long time about what needs to be done in Syria and what went wrong in Syria, and he's quite a serious student of the policy there. I regard the guy as a deep thinker, not a lineal thinker. He comes up with a lot of stuff that is not mainstream politically correct, but he was a strong governor for 2 terms in New Mexico. I think he'd be a strong president. Pop quiz or no pop quiz?
Let me ask you about the spoiler effect. Are you concerned that you could play a spoiler effect, and it would be, especially if it ended up electing Donald Trump?
Well, I think we're beyond spoiler already. I mean, we're in double digits in about 45 states. We're over 15% in 17 to 20 states. We're over 20% in several states. And you know, we're very competitive in the Intermountain West, northern New England, the whole pillar of states from the Dakotas down to the border. Surprisingly, in my view, in the upper Midwest all the way out to the coast, the left coast. We are polling well, and that's without us spending any money and without the country having focused on us. You know, we're hopeful that we'll get to the magic 15% nationwide, that we'll get Gary Johnson, if not in the second debate, at least into the third, and then the whole world will be watching. You
know, it's interesting the phraseology you used there when I asked you that. You said you're well past that point. That implies to me is that if you saw support start to fade, if you don't get into the debates and this idea of a binary choice takes hold, then does that mean you would start being concerned about being a spoiler?
I'd be concerned about electing Donald Trump, but the last thing I want to do is give up my platform to help the country focus on the weakness of Mr. Trump's candidacy. I think he's just in the wrong place trying to be president of the United States, and that's not a secret. I said that to Chris Matthews on MSNBC 2 nights ago. I do not view those other 2 candidates the same way. I think very highly of Mrs. Clinton. I think she's very well qualified. I thought she did a great job in the debate the other night. She kept her game face on, and it was, you know, a nice smile, not a pressed lip smile. I thought Mr. Trump, by the end of the debate, was out of control. As your guests earlier were pointing out, that's nothing unusual, but I think they're whistling past the graveyard if they don't think Mr. Trump has a chance to win this whole thing. It's an irrational year.
No, I understand that. And if you thought you were playing a role in that, what would that mean for you?
Oh no, that would be a very bad thing. But you know, I trust myself not to be a nebbish when it comes to pointing out weaknesses in the Trump proposition, if you will, over the next 7 weeks, at least, you know, through the debates. I mean, our ambition at a very minimum is to have Mr. Trump in 3rd place among the 3 major tickets. I know there's supposed to be just 2, but we are probably in 3rd place by most people's estimation. We want to get him into 3rd place so we don't have to worry about him.
No, I know, but I go back. You seem genuinely concerned about the threat of a Trump presidency. So that does sound like...
That's for darn sure.
Well, it does sound like if you thought you guys were standing in the way of that, but you couldn't win yourself, what would you do?
Well, I mean, you play it as it lays, and there's a lot of hypos in there. That's almost a question in the form of a pretzel. You know, I would have the interests of the United States always uppermost, but I do not think that those interests are advanced by me saying, oh, I renounced my candidacy. I'm going to go back on everything I ever said to Gary Johnson or the Libertarians. And by the way, I'm having the time of my life in this campaign, and we're getting to swing away, and we get to say exactly what we think. It's not like when I was a Republican and I was carrying all that social conservative stuff on my back, even though I didn't agree with it. Now I agree with everything that Gary and I are saying.
What is the, why would Gary Johnson make a better president than Hillary Clinton?
You know, I think he's got a very appealing policy mix. The number one issue would be fiscal policy. Gary and I both balanced our budgets and moved our states in more conservative fiscal directions. I think the next president has to do that, or we're going to hollow out the economy, and we won't have the strength economically to do all the wonderful things that Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton have promised are all going to be for free. It's not for free just because the government printing presses are churning out the money. There is actually no such thing as government money. There's only taxpayers' money. And the fact that Johnson and I were reelected by wide margins after having been fiscal conservatives in our first term suggests to me that the voters at the end of the day do appreciate responsible fiscal stewardship.
Do you believe he's more qualified to be president than Hillary Clinton?
I'm not sure anybody's more qualified than Hillary Clinton to be president of the United States. I mean, that's not the end of the inquiry, though. We were two-term governors, and I think Gary is very solid. You know, at this point, we overlapped as governors, and I thought highly of him back when we served together. But having spent the last several months with the guy, I mean, I don't even just like the guy. I love the guy. I think he's very solid and deep. I think his insight that it pays to have some restraint about military incursions for the purpose of regime change before we spill American blood on foreign soil and put boots on the ground in countries where we just don't like what the government in that country is doing. I think that's a valuable insight. I'm not sure it's characterized the foreign policy of either the Bush, the most recent Bush, or the Obama administration. I think that might be a refreshing change. I think he and I could bring a more tranquil approach to government in Washington, because we wouldn't be screaming at one of the two parties about how stupid they are.
What
we
would
work with them both?
What difference do you think your presence would make in a VP debate on Tuesday with Mike Pence and Tim Kaine?
Well, of course, I'd love to be there and talk about how government can make a big difference on issues like Black Lives Matter, police brutality. I think we need huge amounts of training there. I did it with the judges in my state when they didn't understand domestic violence, and it worked. The police trained the judges, and after 2 years they got it, and they stopped asking victims of domestic abuse, what did you do to irritate your boyfriend or your husband? Different problem, but training worked, and it would be a real pleasure to lean into that one.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.